The Jets, the New York Jets, had a good football day. And they didn't even have to take the field, which is the best, because then they can't disappoint me. I'm excited about the draft. Round 1 has happened. Plenty more stuff to happen, but round 1 is where we sink our teeth into. There was some interesting picks. There were some good ones. There were some teams that I didn't think did that well. There were some trades that made my head spin. I don't understand. We'll get to that. We'll talk about NBA playoffs round 2, which is coming, finishing up round 1. And then I have a couple of UFC Fight Night picks because I think it's an interesting card toward the end. First up, I have to talk about how I don't bet the NFL draft anymore. I used to be really in on evaluating talent. I still watch a lot of college football. I still like the NFL, although it's not my favorite sport because of most off-the-field stuff and all the nonsense that surrounds it. But I have realized that it's hard enough to try to evaluate who's going to win a game and how these players are going to play. It's 10 times harder to evaluate some of that and then also what these GMs are going to do, because some of the GMs are good, some are bad, some don't know what they're doing. And this draft specifically with no real quarterbacks, that made it really super difficult to evaluate. We saw a million trades happen in round 1. And this year especially, but moving forward, I'm going to be very, very wary of betting on the NFL draft. So I don't have any picks for it, but I have some takes and how it'll impact the season moving forward. Maybe we'll get to, preseason NFL picks as we get closer to the season, but I really think some teams made moves up and some made moves down. Let's take a look at the draft and how it unfolded. This Trayvon Walker pick, I can't understand. The odds shifted so far in his favor. It was Thibodeau for the longest time, and then he drops because I don't want to say off-field issues because that makes it seem like he's a bad guy. It seemed like they were just concerned that he had other interests other than football. He was talking about starting businesses and a whole bunch of other things. And to me, that's a good thing. You don't need to have this picture where you're addicted to football to be a good player, right? So I didn't understand this dropping. Maybe there's something that I'm not seeing and maybe we'll figure it out. But on the field, Thibodeau is a beast, better than the other Thibodeaus coaching the Knicks who needs to go. Two Thibodeaus in New York now, actually. So anyway, good for the Giants. And I hate to keep harping on it, but the Giants are one of my winners from this draft, and we'll get back towards the top. But I love this Evan Neal pick. I can't believe he fell there. I wanted the Jets to get him at 10. So they get 2 guys that could have been top 5 picks for sure. One that could have been number 1, one that probably could have been number 2 if people needed a lineman that bad. Second lineman that went, but still. And I find this interesting. I'm trying to relate draft to basketball to wrap this whole video into one. And I think the Kayvon Thibodeau thing is similar to the Anthony Edwards thing that we saw with the Wolves. When he was coming out, they took him number 1, but there was a lot of talk about, does this guy like playing basketball? He talks so interestingly. He's open. He says he might not love the game that much. There was some of that going on. And then you take him and he sees the court and you're like, this guy's perfect. He's the best player and he has an interesting personality that can command the media. I don't see why this would be different. Who are the players? I can't recall the name. Who are the players that played for the Seahawks? Oh, and really, not the Griffins before that. Oh man, why can't I think of it? Oh geez. Tough. They had some interests off the field. Good players. One of them also played for the Cowboys. I mean, someone's got to help me out here. But I can't think of it. Let's see if we can find it. Seahawks roster 2018. It's a shot in the dark. Let's see if we can find it. Because they had some off-the-field stuff that people didn't like either. And then all of a sudden it wasn't really a problem anymore. Yeah, I don't want to spend forever on this, but let's go back to 2017, see if we can find it. I know he was on this team. Oh, Bennett. The Bennetts. Michael Bennett. Yeah, there was some about that where they were doing interviews and they were like, is this guy even into football? He was speaking about social stuff and mental health and all that kind of stuff. And there was some pushback about that. And I always went, well, he's playing really well and he's an interesting follow. that's good thing in this day and age. And he can speak to the media, and he's well-spoken. So anyway, I think the Thibodeau thing relates to the Anthony Edwards thing pretty well. In that once he gets on the field and then starts talking to the media and starts producing, you're going to like him more probably. And all those issues that aren't really issues seem to melt away. So I think he probably should have gone number 1, to be honest with you. I understand the Hutchinson pick at 2, but the Walker pick I don't really get. He's a defensive end that doesn't really rush the passer that well because he was a defensive tackle at Georgia, and then Georgia had 2 better defensive tackles, or at least he was the one that was made the most sense to move to the edge. So he got beat out at his own position, kinda, by 2 people on his own college team, and then gets drafted number 1 by the Jaguars, who need a playmaker, but also already have Josh Allen on the edge. So I didn't really get this. I think this was probably not a panic pick, but it was like, we have nothing to do here and can't trade the pick. It's like when the Cavs drafted Anthony Bennett number 1 overall, and everyone knew they wanted to trade that pick, but there's no quarterback up there, or in that scenario, there was no superstar player up there to trade up for, so no one took the bait, and then you're left saying, well, who the hell are we going to take? I would have taken Thibodeau first, especially if you were going for a D-end anyway, but yeah, they seem to believe that Trayvon Walker can be this hybrid kind of guy. It kind of reminds me, not that they play exactly the same way, but when Jadeveon Clowney came out, he was kind of similar. He was rushing the passer better, but he wasn't exactly a classic edge rusher. He was a hybrid between D-end and D-tackle, and I don't know. I guess it worked out. You can make that judgment for yourself. Pretty good player. I'm not saying Trayvon Walker's going to be bad. It just felt like a weird pick for a team that needs skills and needs to surround Trevor Lawrence with better stuff and has a new coach. And I don't know. I would have just went safe and gone offensive line if necessary. I guess they didn't want to reach and they couldn't trade back. So what are you going to do? But not my favorite pick. The Jets, I like the fact that they got Sauce. I like the fact that they got Wilson as a receiver, even though they were in trade rumors for a bunch of the receivers. Some receivers did get traded, and then it didn't really work out. And then they trade back in and get Jermaine Johnson late, who could have been a top 10 pick. I mean, you can't do better in the draft than this. Joe Douglas has been an awesome, awesome GM so far, and anyone ragging on him is really silly. The only thing that they could have done better is draft offensive line. I assume they'll address that in the rest of the draft. I really do want them to protect Wilson, but at the same time, while I'm concerned that these are a bunch of smaller, skinny guys, especially the 2 top picks, they're a team that desperately needs skill, speed, and interesting playmakers. So I totally get it. They needed to address corner. They did. They needed to address receiver. They did. And it seemed like all the trades that they wanted, A.J. Brown, Hollywood Brown ended up getting traded. We'll get to that in a second. And then, and the Debo thing, everyone wanted Elijah Moore in the trade, and that just doesn't make sense to me. You're going to trade out the only good receiver that you do have, although Berrios is pretty good as a third, but you're going to trade that and then pay a guy on top of that just for the swap? You need to be additive at this point. The team is not good enough. So you're adding Garrett Wilson, who can make plays. Should be interesting in the red zone, even though he's smaller, because he's got great body control, so I kind of want to see what happens with that. And then you have him and Moore, and you can grow forward. You don't need to rush it, necessarily. So I think they did great. They honestly did great. Winners of the draft. There's really no doubt about it. Giants also winners, as I mentioned. And then a couple of other things that I didn't really understand. The Packers take a linebacker here. They already have a linebacker, so he's Walker. I mean, Georgia defenders generally good, but he's not even going to be your best linebacker, and you didn't get a receiver. And that was the most obvious thing. Now, Aaron Rodgers is going to throw to Lazard as his number 1. I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe they go get Debo, but I can't imagine the Niners are going to want to trade Debo to the Packers after all the history they've had. So that seemed insane to me, and you're already pissing off Aaron Rodgers, which you've already done 1,000 different times. I like that the Bills took a corner here. I think they addressed a real need. When Tre'Davious White went out, they were a sieve defensively in the secondary. Some people didn't really notice. It showed up in that Chiefs game, which everyone knows was a wild ending. But now if you have White back and Elam at corner, man, they already didn't have many holes, and they're looking a lot better. One thing I didn't really understand was this Patriots thing. I saw on Twitter that Bill Belichick made 83 draft day trades. How is that even making any bit of sense? How do you get a life, dude? What are you doing? You can't extract that much value. And then all of a sudden, you make all these trades, trade back, constantly. It's the Patriot way, whatever. And then you take Cole Strange, who wasn't even supposed to go in day 1, might not even have gone in round 2, probably would have, but still is definitely a reach for a guard. And you needed offensive line help because you traded some pieces away, I get it. But to do all of these moves and then reach for a guard, I mean, it's such a Belichickian thing to do, to get a guy from Tennessee, Chattanooga to play guard. And then it'll probably work out for no real reason, and it'll be great. But at what point is Belichick becoming a caricature of Belichick, you know? This felt like it might have been crossing that gap, but doubting him has not gotten me very far in my life, so what are you going to do? The Lions trade up like 20 spots to get a receiver who's very fast but has a torn ACL, won't even be ready for the season. So they give up a bunch to move all the way up to get a speedster on a bum leg, and they don't have a quarterback to throw him to. And this is a team that has hit at the top because of Megatron. But if they didn't have Megatron, they would be known as, and they already are known as this, the team that busts most at the top of the draft on receivers mostly. So this is wild. This is a wild all-in move. He better be awesome, and this better be a play for not this upcoming season, but the following one when you get the other quarterback, that you just want to have a weapon ready for him to evaluate him immediately. I guess you're just punting this whole season upcoming also, and it's another tank season. I mean, how many tank seasons can you have for the Lions? I don't want to rag on them too bad. It's totally ridiculous. Chargers got an offensive lineman. I mean, as simple as you can possibly do. I think they took him at 17. Yeah, but that's all you needed to do. Protect Herbie. The rest of the team is good. So I thought this was an A draft. Like, really nice. Doesn't need to complicate it. Go get the line. That's all you need to do. Same with the Bengals. Go get some secondary help. I think they have some contracts running out. The Bates contract is up in the air. And this guy, I think, is a hybrid safety corner. So he can kind of impact the game at all levels. And their offense is already pretty good. They addressed offensive line in free agency, so they didn't really need that out of the draft, and they can go get a skill player, and they did that. Let's talk quickly about the trades. Now, what was the exact parameters of this trade? Let's find out. Nope, CBS layoff. Traded the 23rd pick to the Ravens in exchange for Marquise Brown and a 3rd round pick, number 100. So you're moving up 77 spots to get Marquise Brown. I like Marquise Brown. What I don't understand here is why the Ravens are doing this. You don't have a lot of receivers. What are you doing? You have an MVP caliber quarterback. You must like Rashad Bateman. Fine. Devin Duvernay is okay. I keep thinking he's good, but then he never really does very much. And your receiver room is looking a lot like the Packers receiver room. Two teams with good quarterbacks that have nothing to do with them. You got a center later. I liked that. I kind of went one pick before the Jets. And I kind of wanted to take this center, but understandable. He went, whatever. But I just didn't get this. I don't get the Marquise Brown thing. They love speed. They had John Brown at one time. They're replacing Christian Kirk, who isn't necessarily a speedster. But you're trying to open up spots for Hopkins. You're trying to play into the Kyler thing where he scrambles and gets room. I get it. I didn't understand this at all from the Ravens. I don't know what they're doing. I don't understand their offense or what they're planning to do. Are they going to run it every single play? Are they going to expect Dobbins and Edwards to be back and then just constantly be a three-headed monster running the football and never throw? I don't get it. Is this a Deebo Samuel's landing spot? Does that make sense? But why wouldn't that have happened already with these picks? It just didn't make any sense to me. And then the A.J. Brown trade, I guess this one makes more sense, but if you're the Eagles, look, I get if you don't want to pay A.J. Brown, because if you're the Titans, you think that you don't know where your team is going. You don't think that Tannehill is the quarterback, which is probably correct. You don't know if Derrick Henry is going to last forever health-wise, probably correct. And you don't want to pay $100 million for A.J. Brown. Okay. And then you went and got a pick, and they drafted a receiver to kind of restart the clock because they know they're going to have to change the quarterback. That's fine. The package was perfectly fine. I get it. But why are the Eagles doing this? They go get A.J. Brown, who is great and young, and pay him $100 million, which he probably deserves, but you don't have a quarterback to throw it to. you're using this to evaluate Hurts. We already know that Hurts isn't the guy. Like, if you don't know that by now, I can't believe they're giving him another season. Maybe there'll be egg on my face if I'm totally wrong. Love eggs, but not on my face. I just don't get it. This screams AJ Brown frustrated by week 7. Can't get the ball. Can't get the ball to him. He's going to be running free down the field, and he's just not going to get it. So I didn't like this. I don't understand it. It's not... I do probably prefer Debo, although it depends on the scenario, right? But especially with a bad quarterback, or one that you're not completely in on. If you're on the Jalen Hurts camp, you can at least admit we're not totally sure yet. And if that's the scenario, I would have rather gone and got Debo, right? Because he has proven that with a... I don't want to say Jimmy G is a lackluster quarterback, but with a limited quarterback, he can make those things and be a yak monster. And A.J. Brown can do some of that too, but he wants to get down the field and be open, and that just isn't going to be the case. So I didn't understand these wide receiver trades really, and I'm shocked that after all the Debo talk, it seems like he's probably going to stay because teams don't need receivers anymore unless the Ravens thing comes together or the Jets make a weird move or whatever. But it felt like it would have happened last night, and for those two trades to happen, very weird. And then the only other thing I wanted to go over was the quarterback situation, which we knew that the Steelers needed a quarterback, but it didn't seem like it was going to be this. I mean, they go get him.
Storybook night for Kenny Pickett.
Storybook night for Kenny Pickett is right. Pittsburgh guy, this feels like the only reason they went and got him. It felt like the other quarterbacks on the board were probably better options. I was shocked that of all the quarterbacks, he was the one to go at 20 and no one else went in the first round. This felt like they just picked one because he's the hometown guy. I'm sure that's not the case. Their GM must have some idea of what he's doing, I would hope. But man, it's scary. It's very scary. I didn't really love this pick. I was confused by it. I'll be interested to see if I'm proven wrong. But when I have Kenny Pickett and Trubisky in the quarterback room, I'm not super psyched about our outlook on the season, and I'm going to be targeting Steelers unders probably as we get closer to that. So anyway, that's kind of how I felt about the draft. Ongoing, but a bunch of weird things, and again, a whole bunch of reasons why you just don't bet on the draft generally unless you have a monster reason to do so. So hopefully the Jets nail their second round and more interesting things happen on day 2. And at Mike Mush Sports, we'll be talking about it, I'm sure. So check in there. And if I decide to get frisky and throw some bets in, then, I lied to you, but I don't think that'll be the case. Let's move on to basketball first, then we'll get to UFC. I was researching it earlier. We already have, if you watch the NBA video from the first round, we already have the Grizzlies -1.5 for the series. So I'm not really going to touch this game because it would just be hedging against myself. I think the Grizzlies probably will win, but I'll cash that bet if they do. I don't want to bet on the Wolves. I think Ja Morant kind of figured something out there. But I do want to talk about the other second round series and if there are any series prices that we like. I got to admit, I liked some of the first series prices, but we didn't do that well on those picks. We had the Nets. I liked them as dogs. That didn't work out at all. Overthought it probably. And then we had the Bucks to sweep, which should have hit and didn't. And then I had the Jazz in a parlay with the Warriors and the Bucks, which probably should have hit, but they lost games when Luka wasn't even there. So tough there, but we did really good game to game, and I'm trying not to fall into that trap again. However, I do like the Bucks at this price against the Celtics. +168 is pretty disrespectful, and I do think the Chris Middleton thing is a problem, especially with the Celtics team that has wings for days. But I do like Grayson Allen and Connaughton, and I like what they bring to the table. And I think as long as they can hit some shots, Celtics are going to go double, triple Giannis. It might not matter, and he always finds the open guy. And I think those guys can hit shots, honestly. I really do. So at this price, I feel like this is way more of a 50-50. I mean, the Celtics thing is really good, don't get me wrong, but they did play against a Nets team that has no defense at all, and I think you'll see the Celtics offense struggle a little more, and this will be a grinded-out kind of series, and when you have Giannis, that's probably helpful. You do have Tatum, but I do expect Giannis to guard Tatum down the stretch of games, and then just leave the bigs in the paint to deal with the rest of it, so I just think at this price, it makes sense. I'm not going overboard. It's going to be a one-unit play at +168 for the Bucks. And I really prefer at this point in the year to probably take it game by game because you can just get better odds on a gamely basis and kind of adjust as you go along. So that's how I feel about that. This one I'm not touching at all. I don't know what to make of this. The Sixers can beat the Heat. And if you like them as an underdog, great. But I'm not betting on an injured Embiid who is always injured. And who knows if he'll get through this series, which will be very physical, I'm sure. And then Harden, who knows what I'm getting. I actually like Maxey to be the most consistent of anyone in this series, maybe. So yeah, I don't like this price on the Heat either. I want to look at it game by game. Thought about parlaying the Heat to win game 1 and the series, if anything, because you can get that at like, what is it, -110. Pretty good odds there. But I'd rather give it a game. I don't even know if I'll take the Heat in game 1. I kind of just want to see them play a time or two and see where that goes. In the West, there's no value here. No value at all. I mean, Luka is a problem. I will be betting the Suns a bunch. We have him to win the championship. We have him to go to the finals. Check out the previous videos if you're not on those yet and get on them if you can. I love the Suns. I rode them all the way through the last series. But this price just doesn't seem good to me, and I'd rather take it game by game. And then we'll see what happens on the other side of the West. But like I mentioned, still on Memphis, and then you're going to have Memphis and Golden State. And honestly, I think people are really high on Golden State, but we've seen them cool off a bit when Jordan Poole isn't scoring 30. Now, is he going to score 30 all the time? I don't know. Maybe he will, but I think if we're going to end up getting the Grizzlies at a big underdog price, if it's bigger than this Mavericks price, I might take a flyer on them. I like Golden State. I could see myself betting Golden State at home to win those games, but I kind of think the Grizzlies are going to give them a little bit of trouble. Golden State struggled at some times putting away the fighting Denver Jokic's, and they have nobody on the perimeter. So I don't know. Everyone's so high on Golden State. I still think Phoenix is a clear favorite in the West, and I like watching Golden State. I think they're really fun. I'm just not totally sold because when they're not hitting shots, Clay has been up and down and Poole has been up and down. Steph has been great. I don't expect Wiggins to do a whole lot, and I don't think that Otto Porter, that fourth person in the lineup, isn't always blowing me away. And Draymond will do well, but I don't know. Something about it, if I'm getting a really good price, we'll have to see what the series is. Again, at Mike Mush Sports, or we'll do another video, TBD, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when I'm going live. You can join the chat, you can do the stuff, like blah, blah, blah. But yeah, we got to wait and see what happens there. We'll ride the Grizzlies for this series first. We'll get back to Game 7 if it gets there and probably hammer the Grizzlies. So, check it out on the Twitter and Instagram. The picks will be there. We're always updating them. But that's kind of where I'm at with the basketball series. And then we have UFC this weekend. Small card, free card. But I did like one bet. This Romanov fight is ridiculously one-sided. I never like to lay minus 1,800, and I won't. But if you go a little deeper, you can get him, let's see where the double choice is. Double chance, minus 550 by TKO or submission, which is basically Romanov to win inside the distance. I really like that. And you can get a parlay, which I was trying to find, and I don't love to force it when I don't see the second leg. I was thinking about a couple things. Francisco Figueiredo is the brother of Davison Figueiredo. I've liked some things from him as an underdog, but doesn't have the power that Davison has, and I just have no idea what to do with this fight, so I didn't do it. Gerald Meerschaert, I thought about it for a minute, but, as an underdog, he's nice, but he tends to lose the big fights more often than not, and I'm just not all the way there. Couldn't do it. Darren Elkins' fight, couldn't do it. Thought about Jared Gordon as a dog, but again, this is more just leaning to stay away from the Dawson bet because I think Gordon is a live dog. Maybe if we get frisky on Saturday at Mike Mush Sports, you'll see if we add some stuff to the ticket. But where I landed was on Andre Fili because I feel like he's fought some really good fighters before. Let me look. Oliveira, maybe? He's fought Yair, Max Holloway. He's fought a lot of guys. Lost on a guillotine, but got deep into that fight against Holloway. Gabriel Benitez he beat. Lost to Yair in a head kick. That's fine. Lost to Cater. Unanimous decision. Okay. Lobov, Bermudez, Michael Johnson. Lost to Bryce Mitchell. Sure, but has fought a lot of heavy competition. And Joe Anderson Brito, not the same level. So generally doesn't even have a wiki. I mean, look at that. Tells you everything you need to know. But generally, I like the guy that has lost to better competition because he is aware of what he's getting into in the cage, and it feels like a bounce back spot from Feely. So that brings us to our first official pick, and we got a few. We're going with Romanov by TKO or KO or sub, that double chance at minus 550, parlayed with Feely moneyline, brings you to minus 149 at the fight night on Saturday night. 1 unit on that. We're also going with Bucks to win the series against the Celtics, plus 168. 1 unit on that. And then a baseball round robin. We got to throw them in because we've been red hot with them. By the way, every time I do a round robin, I break it into twos. It's the easiest way to hedge yourself. And it's just a fun way to get a bunch of baseball picks in there, which is hard to do. But sometimes you like a lot of picks, and that's just been my method. But also, every time we do the round robin, we add in the full parlay with all of the teams, just in case we sweep it to get a little bit of a bonus. So that always adds up to my unit count, and I'm including the full parlay. Break it down however you want to, but these are the picks I like. Mariners, this is Friday night. Mariners, Brash on the mound, was a reliever, converted, and has looked really good. So Mariners at Marlins with Brash. Astros, Blue Jays over 7.5. Should be a slugfest. 2 pitchers that I don't necessarily trust. The Rays with Kluber on the mound against the Twins. I'm taking the Rays. I think Dylan Bundy is due for an explosion, and Kluber has just been really good if he can get deep enough into the game. And then the Braves with Ian Anderson against the Rangers. I'm taking the Braves. Garrett Richards on the hill for the Rangers, and I'll fade Garrett Richards. I mean, it's 2022. What are we doing? So Mariners, Astros, Blue Jays over 7.5. Rays money line, Braves money line. That's 1 unit in total. Round robin, break it up however you want. That's 3 units in total for this video. But as always, we may add more. The second round of NBA is ongoing. NFL draft is ongoing. Don't think we'll dip into that. But there are sure to be more NBA picks and more videos coming. And at Mike Mush Sports, follow there on Twitter and on Instagram. Follow here, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when we're going live the next time, but we update it on the social media when we're planning to do a video, and we will see you next time. Good luck. Put that money to use. Plus 53.6 units on the year. We're doing well. We're staying hot. Hopefully we'll keep it that way. I'll see you next time.